Welcome, everybody, to the Huddle. I'm Jason Barr of KGUN9 with Pat Parris. It's our weekly streaming sports talk show. We come to you every Tuesday. Got a lot to talk about, Pat, and I think we'll start with the Arizona football team escaping Stanford with a 21-20 win. They're able to do so, and they do so with Noah Fifita engineering the game-winning drive. I think that's where we're going to start.
Yeah, and that's why Noah Fifita is on the team, right? And I assume he expects to get a chance to start eventually anyway. But good thing they had him, Jason. And I guess I'll say this as we look at Noah Fifita and what he did and engineered the drive that put the team ahead and they win the game. A win's a win. We always say that, but right now we go back to that other old adage. They're not passing the eye test right now in some areas of the game. Defensively, they are. Offensively, at times they are. But for the most part, it's the inconsistencies of Jayden de Laura that are really bogging this team down. Noah Fifita comes in after Jayden de Laura goes down with the ankle injury. And as I mentioned, engineered that last drive. And thank goodness he's on the roster. And thank goodness they pulled out a game that they were supposed to win by 2 scores.
Yeah, well, sometimes you play to that level of the competition. So I think that's where the eye test comes in, because they definitely did play better when they went to an SEC team in Mississippi State. Stanford's going to be a bottom of the Pac-12. Pat, I almost texted you during the game. I wanted Fifita in there. Not that I wanted to make a quarterback change for good, but the problem was this. This was not a game where you needed a guy to run around and do crazy things and go 50 yards for 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage and run away and do reverses. Right. You just needed a guy to go in there and execute plays because you're a better team than this. And Fifita, if he's anything, he's decisive. And when he came in, I'm like, this is the guy they need, almost like a pitcher out of the bullpen. Yeah. This was the exact quarterback they needed. They're a better team than Stanford. Just go in, snap the ball, throw the pass. That's all you need to do. I think they were better off with Noah Fifita in that game than they would have been with Jayden de Laura.
Well, you might be right. I mean, yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent that there's a decision-making ability that some quarterbacks just have the knack of. Maybe it's ingrained from years of coaching. Maybe it's just something that they're born with, that decision. And for whatever reason, Noah Fifita has it, and Jayden de Laura loses it sometimes. And the running 20 yards back,
trying to do too much.
It just doesn't make any sense. When you
trying for a highlight film,
it's 1 read, 2 reads, and then do something with it.
That's right.
And Jayden de Laura wasn't groomed as a running quarterback, as a run first quarterback, or even a run second quarterback. He is a drop back passer that's supposed to find the open guy. But he's having problems seeing the guys open, or he's having problems making the progressions of his reads and making the right decision. And maybe the injury bailed the Wildcats out there, Jason. I mean,
a blessing in disguise.
It might be, and we don't know what the status will be on Saturday. I suspect we won't know until game time. But if Noah Fifita is out there, it gives them about the same amount of chance, Jason, I think.
Yeah, you could say, Washington's a stronger team. They might need a guy like de Laura to make some wild plays to win the game. But yeah, you got a much better team coming in here this Saturday night with Washington, 7th-ranked team in the country. The Wildcats are now 3-1. And, when you look at the schedule, and they've got the 8 games left, 7 against the ranked teams, they've got to come away with 2 wins out of these 7 ranked games to have a chance at a 6-6 record when they play the Territorial Cup game. This is not a game I'm expecting them to win. You want to see them pass the eye test. I think there's a Washington State, Oregon State, Colorado. I think you can get 2 out of those 3, maybe steal 1 against somebody along the way in an upset. But as we look at Rome Odunze, the top wide receiver for Washington, who's also a dangerous punt returner as well, this is a much tougher team coming in than anything they faced this year.
Yeah, let's throw in Wally Wildcat's comment real quick as we wrap up just quickly on Stanford. Wally Wildcat says, thought we'd beat Stanford easily. I think we all did, losing faith in de Laura. Maybe there's some Wildcat fans that share that. I think Jason and I have said we're not sure that Jayden de Laura is seeing the field well enough right now, and the decision making isn't there. To your point about Washington, you haven't mentioned Michael Penix Jr., quarterback, who's now He had a red shirt year. He changed schools. He had a red shirt year. Then he had COVID. This is his 6th year of playing major college football.
No wonder I feel like I've heard about him forever.
You heard about him a long time. So I think it's only his 2nd as the starting quarterback at Washington. But he's a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate now. And some have him ahead of Caleb Williams right now at USC because Caleb Williams didn't struggle against Arizona State, but USC's defense struggled against Arizona State. But right now, you look at Penix. How about 16 touchdown passes in 4 games? So that's
2 interceptions, only 2 interceptions.
Yeah, and he is legit, and he is certainly a guy that is going to give Arizona's defense a lot more than anybody else they've faced so far.
Yeah, Feasy is the prize socket at corner is going to have a good game. You take a look at the Arizona, U of A beats high-ranked teams on occasion. This would not be unheard of for them to win this game, especially when the other team kind of sleeps on them a little bit. So when I say, hey, they need two wins out of these 7 games, I'm not conceding. I'm not conceding this one, but this is going to be a tough one. This is a polished Washington team.
Well, and if you look, ESPN just did a ranking the undefeated teams, and they have Washington as number 1. And when we talk about eye test, I know we throw that out there a lot, but right now Washington is passing the eye test and looks like the best team in the country. Now, will they be? Who knows? You've got Ohio State, who had that big win against Notre Dame. You've got Georgia, who's just, defending 2-time defending national champion. They may win a 3rd. But at this very moment, you can make the argument Washington is the best team in the country, playing like it anyway. And that's going to be a real tough thing for this Arizona defense, is to face that offense. The thing gives you some hope about this Arizona defense being more than just, oh yeah, they won 3 of their first 4 games, and they really only had one really tough opponent in there. Well, they just had a game where they had 5 sacks, Jason. That's pretty impressive against another Pac-12 school. And I think it was 11 tackles for loss. That is impressive, the way the Arizona defense is going right now. And maybe they can slow this Washington State offense down just a little bit and make it competitive. I think that's what we look for, just be a competitive team on Saturday night.
Yeah, very impressed with Jacob Manu and some of the other players in there who are making some tackles for losses. It's definitely a much improved defense than what we saw from last year, and a much bigger defense as well. But like I said, they've got a much tougher team coming in, and I think though they've played to the level of their competition. So I think even as a whole, if they didn't look so great against Stanford, I think you're going to see a different level of play this week, just based on who they play. By the way, did you see the attendance at least what it looked like at Stanford? There was barely anybody there. Yeah. Somebody made the comment, it doesn't matter, Arizona's not going to be going back for a while with Stanford going to the ACC.
Well, and I read that, by the way, quickly in the game notes, I read, last year, this is family weekend again. And family weekend's always big. It's, in a lot of ways, Jason, it's bigger than homecoming, in the sense that family weekends, that's when all the families want to come see their kids who've been in school a whole month, and they get a chance. Last year they sold out. It was 50,800 when USC was in town. Washington's in town. Maybe they're going to have a great crowd.
No, they should. I think Fish said that they were close.
Yeah, I think they can get.
Because it was disappointing against UTEP, but people go for the other team very often.
Yeah, they do. But it's help when you have moms and dads and brothers and sisters coming along too to help fill up those seats.
That adds up. So, all right, so it's going to be a 7:00 game, Arizona against Washington. Certainly, it's going to be the last of a lot of go-arounds here for the Pac-12. And one of the things is this affects the Pac-12 network, and this affects actually Arizona basketball, because the Red-Blue game on Friday night is not going to be televised. And this is a game that's televised certainly every year that I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be. And so it gives the Red-Blue a little bit more of a chance to be sold out. Tommy Lloyd, the Arizona basketball head coach, had a news conference yesterday, Pat, ahead of Red-Blue, and made some interesting comments. He was asked about last season and the disappointing loss to Princeton. And it's interesting because it's different now when it's several months later. He had a really interesting comment that I clipped, and I want to play. Let's hear from Tommy Lloyd, and then we'll get a little reaction on the other side of it, Pat.
The only way you can truly write the next chapter to your story is if you own everything that came before it, and that's good things and bad things, and there's no excuses. I mean, we just, I mean, it comes down to our culture probably wasn't strong enough, and our effort wasn't good enough, when we needed it most, and for whatever reason, I mean, those two things were kind of where I've came down to. So, my immediate thought after we lost that game, what was, I've got to increase our margin for error. And how do I do that? And so that's the mission I've been on this offseason.
Yeah, I think he's spot on, Jason.
There's a few things to unpack there. The margin of error has to do with the depth, but you go ahead first.
Well, I appreciate when a coach, and I think that's why we both like Tommy Lloyd, and I think Wildcat fans understand that you have to be your toughest critic sometimes, and sometimes that means admitting you were wrong or admitting that you could do better. And there's a starting guard that's no longer here.
Yeah, I didn't take it, Pat, from him doing better. I took this as the two Sean Miller players didn't step up at the right time and say, "Come on my back, we're going to win this game."
He's still going to take responsibility for constructing that roster.
Meaning Crease and Tubells. Go ahead.
Yes, yeah. and maybe leaning too much on them when they weren't the right personalities to handle it, and maybe in Kirk Crease's case, maybe not even good enough player to handle it. So he is completely, and he talked about this as well. He's reconstructed the roster. He's added a lot of depth, and now it's a good thing that he's got it almost has too much. It's his cup runneth over with these quality players, and they're different kind of players with different kind of mentalities and skill sets. And I think that I just appreciate the fact that he recognized right away what went wrong and how they can be better. And they went out and they did it in the recruiting trail. And a lot of that was the portal. And, we sat there a month before the midsummer and talked about what's this team going to be? They've got nobody. And now we're talking about this team is going to be exciting, and this team's going to have a chance to win another Pac-12. It'll be the final chance at winning a Pac-12 regular season and postseason title.
Yeah, interesting makeup of the roster. You've got the 5-star guy in Kylan Boswell, the recruit. You've got the international players who he's known for, and then you've got some top transfers like Caleb Love and Keyshawn Johnson, from North Carolina and a San Diego State. So you got a little bit of everything. And Batavius Krivas, am I saying his name right? The one of the Lithuanian players is probably the top international player. He's looked tremendous in the short amount of time that we've seen him. We'll see more of him from Red Blue. So a little bit deeper roster, you got a little bit of everything. But that's how I got it. I don't think he was knocking himself and his coaching staff for the
No.
I think he was. That's as close as you're going to say. This is how I took it. It's as close as you're going to say to, hey, our star players weren't the type of guys who said, game's on the line, give me the ball, let's go.
Yeah.
That's how I took it.
I guess I read.
If you have a different take, you could be right. That's just
and I see that as well. I'm not discounting what you're saying. I just think he talked about it a little later too about, he admitted that maybe he shortened the bench a little too much. He played maybe should have gone a little bit deeper on the bench. And that would have then helped them when they got to a Princeton. He didn't say that specifically, but he said, I've got to be better at maybe getting more guys involved. And I think they'll have to do that just because they have so many really quality players. Jason, these are, it's that old adage, well, they're going to have, 8 or 9 guys. And a couple of those guys probably could start on some of the lesser Pac-12 teams, and they're not going to. They're going to come off the bench, and they may not get as much playing time as they want. But it's going to make them better.
Somebody gets hurt or has an issue at the beginning of the year.
That happens.
Happens every year.
Yep, that happens
every year.
But I'm looking forward to the Red Blue, and just because it signifies that, my favorite sport with my favorite team is underway. So that's just from a
it's interesting you say that because he was asked yesterday what it signifies because Midnight Madness isn't exactly what it is today with the access to the players, and Red Blue was their Midnight Madness, and he just signifies really it's 42 days until our first game. That's what he said.
Yeah.
So I got to do the math. That's 6 weeks. What is it? Late? So I guess that makes sense. Early November is when they start. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 6 weeks until the first game, and that's what he said it really signifies, and a recruiting chance. There's going to be a couple of recruits there as well.
Well, that'll be fun, and it'll be a good crowd. I mean, as you mentioned, there might be a few more people there just because it's not going to be televised on the Pac-12 network, and so you've got to go if you want to see them, you got to go in person, and then you'll have to wait 6 weeks, and then you'll again have an opportunity to see them in person. They've got a really quality, preseason schedule. Preseason, as in before the
Pre-Pac-12,
Pac-12
yeah.
season,
More so
and
than in years past because they
exactly,
don't have a holiday tournament, if I'm not mistaken.
that's correct.
They do have the games in Vegas, but they don't have the holiday tournament. Yeah.
And nobody necessarily asked him this, but I get the feeling that this is more of a Gonzaga kind of preseason where Gonzaga used to have to schedule a lot of quality teams because once they got into conference play, there wasn't much for them to to get any RPI strength of schedule going there. That's not necessarily true in the Pac-12 with the likes of right now of UCLA and Oregon, but they're going to have they're going to take they're going to have a couple of losses, Jason, that we normally don't necessarily see heading into Pac-12 play.
That's
And that's
okay.
fine.
You know what?
That's fine.
I wouldn't have been okay with that the last couple of years. I'm like, they need these wins. After the last couple of years, I'm like, you know what? That's okay. Better to get a loss like that out of the way now than
Well,
having
think
a
about
early
what
exit.
in Kansas is kind of that measuring stick right now, right? Kansas loses a game or two early in non-conference. They lost to Arizona State a couple of times in the last 5 years early on, but they always end up being a number one seed.
It's been a while. I mean, they played Duke, Aaron Cowman in as we take a look at a viewer comment in a non-conference in one of those tournaments. Obviously, the Duke game that we remember, of course, is in the Sweet 16 of the 2011 NCAA tournament, in which Derek Williams went nuts, and they that's what you remember kind of about Arizona playing Duke. But New Michigan State. No, that's three biggies right there. All right, so Pat, as we finish up on one other topic, the last few weeks we've been mentioning Coach Prime. That was the biggest story in sports. Little analogy I'm going to make though. Arizona football was 3-0 in 2012. They had beaten Toledo in overtime at home, a good win at home over a ranked Oklahoma State team that got them ranked. Then they beat South Carolina State at home. So they're 3-0, lots of buzz. Rich Rodriguez's first year, they go to Oregon and lose 62-0 or whatever the score was. So I kind of saw this coming with Colorado.
Well, I think we all did.
Maybe no, but they didn't have their two best players, Travis Hunter on offense, Travis Hunter on defense. So anyway, that loses a little luster. I'll let you comment on that if you want, which leads me to the big story is now.
And now we see where they go from here. The thing about Deion is they're going to be fine. They're going to, they may take their lumps against USC this week, and then they may be off and running again.
They're going to lose 4 or 5 games this year.
We'll see them November 11th when in Boulder. Yeah.
All right. So the big story now in sports has shifted from, you know where I'm going.
Yep.
It's shifted from Deion Sanders, and it's shifted to the Kansas City Chiefs. I cannot believe the excitement. There was no way the Chiefs were going to lose that game with Taylor Swift in the building at Arrowhead Stadium. I couldn't believe it. And I tell you what, I'm a little bit jealous. I mean, it's all it took was a friendship bracelet.
Hey, we got a special guest here. We had to bring in our social media content extraordinaire, my co-anchor Heidi Alaga.
Heidi, you're wearing red too. Is this a coincidence?
I'm wearing red in honor of Taylor's big appearance at Arrowhead Stadium. I mean, here's the thing. The only time I think people were interested in what was happening in that game was when Travis Kelce caught that touchdown pass from from Patrick Mahomes in the third quarter just to see how Taylor Swift was going to react, and she absolutely lost it. Of course, sitting with Travis's mom in the Kelce suite. I mean, this was like social media went crazy.
Don't you think she overreacted a little bit with the LFG, because that's a routine touchdown by him in a blowout, and she acted like that was an overtime. That was a game winner in overtime.
No, she did. I think she was just excited to be there. I mean, here's the thing. All it took is asking her to come out to watch him one time. The rumors are that he told her, hey, I've seen you at Arrowhead Stadium.
Oh, but Heidi, they've hung out in New York before. This was not the first meeting.
Yes, but he told her, how about you come back to Arrowhead and see me play, and we'll see which one's more lit. And she automatically accepted. Now, I will say she is on break from her Eras tour right now. She's not picking up on the road until mid-October, so maybe we'll see
Argentina.
her again.
I'm well aware, Heidi. Yeah. All right, Heidi, let me ask you this. What do you think the chances are December 31st, the Kansas City Chiefs are hosting the Bengals? I believe it's the Bengals. I hope I had this right. The Chiefs, it's going to be freezing cold in Kansas City. It's New Year's Eve. He's going to be there. I don't think Taylor Swift is sitting home New Year's Eve. What do you think the chances that Taylor Swift is still going to be with Travis Kelce December 31st at Arrowhead Stadium for that game?
I mean, I think the Chiefs have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl again this year than that. I'll put that up there.
Okay.
Let me see what else in terms of odds. 7 to none, I think. I think by then we'll be hearing more about their relationship on her next album.
I don't know, Heidi, because he's a different dude than what she's been with in the past.
I will say that I think that was the biggest shocker for everybody is this is not the type that she usually goes for. And
Right.
I think, this might work because he's busy doing his thing. Obviously, he's in the middle of the season, just entered week 4. She's in the middle of a tour. I don't know. I could see the breakup headlines being schedule differences.
Pat, I'm hogging the convo here. Do you have anything to say?
No, you're doing a great job
Heidi, do you have a
interviewing
favorite
Heidi.
Taylor Swift song? I do. I'm curious if you do.
I knew you were trouble, and I feel like that's how that's what I sing when I see Travis Kelce walking in with all of his awesome outfits. Just it matches. I don't know.
But my understanding is he's a gentleman. Now, he's different in appearance than Tom Brady. Okay, Tom Brady is not a guy with earrings and talks in slang. This is a guy with earrings and talks in slang. A little bit of a different dude, but apparently he's a gentleman. I don't think he's going to do wrong by her. Like, I think the different schedules and that can happen, but I don't think he's going to do wrong by her.
Here's the thing. I mean, let's not forget how this all started. He attended her concerts and her concert in hopes of meeting her to give her a bracelet with his phone number. I mean, that was a long shot. And he's now managed to get her to come back to Arrowhead to watch him play. Yeah, I think he's going to do everything to keep her around. It's Taylor Swift.
Well,
How
she
does
does have
anyone
an
not
in
wanna
with
be with Taylor
Travis's.
Swift?
She has an
I
in
don't
with
under-
Travis's mom now too, which is always
Very
good,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I understand he flew to New York. By the way, Heidi, I don't know if you know this, but the Chiefs play at the Jets on Sunday night. So, Taylor has several homes. One of her homes is in Tribeca, Lower Manhattan. So people are now wondering, is she going to be in the stadium? And this fires up players. I mean, this is like the buzz in the stadium. If Taylor Swift is there, is like it's more than anything we've seen.
I think after that first time they got it over with, I think we'll be seeing her. She's on break till mid-October, so I think we might be seeing her again.
She's not going to be flying to every NFL game.
I don't think every game, but I do think things. I mean, what I've heard is that he rented out a whole entire restaurant for them to have dinner at after the game. Of course, we've seen videos of them walking out of Arrowhead Stadium, getting into his convertible.
Oh, they bought the whole
I think he's
restaurant for
going to
the
try
night.
to keep her around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't blame her. I can't understand these guys who have done her wrong. I mean,
Here's something you can't discount as we bring it a little bit back to sports. You're bringing the NFL to another generation that maybe didn't care a whole lot about the NFL, and I think that's what I took away the last 3 days with this buzz is that you've got a generation that now has at least got their eyes open to the NFL, and maybe it's if Taylor Swift likes it, they like it too.
Heidi, have you seen the NFL on social media? The Twitter says the NFL Taylor's version. And for those who may not get the joke, Taylor Swift had to re-record all of her music. It was a big dispute with the label. So now if you go on YouTube to watch any of her videos, there's the old one and there's the one that says Taylor's version. So it says in the NFL Twitter, Taylor's version of the NFL. And the NFL is that picture or one similar on Twitter, at least as I checked this morning, Heidi.
I think everyone's having fun with it. I mean, they were blasting Taylor Swift music during the game. Travis Kelce was laughing about it. I think, but like you said, Pat, a lot of people who probably never watched a football game in their life are now going to be tuning in to these Chiefs games to see if we will be spotting Taylor Swift at yet another game in the Kelce suite.
Yeah. And the Chiefs, the Kelce jersey is probably flying off the shelves now.
400% sales increase.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll bet it's more
wow.
than that now.
Heidi, my favorite Taylor Swift song is You Belong With Me.
Well, maybe they belong together.
Do you know the story behind the song? She was in high school, okay, and it was by the lockers or whatever, and this guy was on the phone with his girlfriend, and she was yelling at him, and apparently you could hear her voice through the phone, and so she's like, "You're on the phone with your girlfriend. She's upset. You're on the phone with you," and it became the whole song. Yeah.
I
Jason-
didn't know you knew so
Jason-
much Taylor Swift trivia.
What's
Jason, you need to calm down, Jason.
Yes. See, Pat knows. Pat knows. I was a big fan early on, like in the first 3 eras when she was singing country, and then not kind of as much in the middle, and then a little bit more recently. I liked the song "Champagne Problems." I don't know if you know that song. It's one one of her more recent ones. It's more sophisticated, but yeah. Heidi, I am so glad that you jumped on because I was going to.
I had to beg her, by the way. She didn't want to come on. I had to beg her to come on.
I just want to say
Are
I
you
quickly
serious?
did my hair and makeup just so that I could be part of the huddle today.
Are you kidding or serious, Pat? That you begged
She
her?
wanted to come on the first time we talked about Taylor Swift, and we completely ignored her. So I think it was a little bit of a hurt feeling. So I had to,
We didn't ignore her.
convince her
She
to
was
come
wearing
on.
green, and we can't do this with the green outfits.
No, but now I
Oh.
realize I set up a nice little studio. So here's the thing: if Taylor Swift
And
keeps
she's
showing
wearing
up,
red, which is Taylor Swift's song, another one of her songs. Go ahead.
if she keeps showing up, I might just be making a weekly appearance on the huddle.
You just keep coming.
Yeah,
That's it.
very
No,
good.
thank you guys for having me. It's been fun.
It was
No, that
fun.
was awesome. This
Yeah.
is one of our best segments for the huddle.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Heidi.
Thanks, Heidi.
Pat, who knew this was going to take this turn, but I'm glad Heidi joined. That was a lot of fun, and we'll be back next Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right, see everybody. It's the Huddle on KGUN 9 streaming platforms for Pat Parris and Heidi Alaga too. You'll see them on the news tonight, and me. I'm Jason Barr. We'll see you right back here next week.